I honestly think The Furious is one of the best movies I've watched this year, and I'm not just saying that because the action is great. This is the kind of movie that reminds you why foreign cinema deserves way more attention than it gets every awards season. We end up talking about the same handful of movies, while films like this quietly come out, blow you away, and somehow still get overlooked. If this doesn't get more recognition, especially around Oscar conversations, that'll be a real shame. Before I get into it, like and follow if you're into movie reviews where we actually say what we think instead of reading the same press release everyone else is reading. So the movie is basically about a man who's pulled into a violent chain of events involving crime, corruption, and revenge, where every decision seems to make things worse instead of better. On paper, you've probably heard that set up 100 times. But what makes The Furious different is that it doesn't rely on the plot to keep you interested. It relies on the people inside the story. The movie constantly reminds you that every fight, every loss, and every choice has consequences, and that's what keeps you invested. That's really my biggest takeaway. This movie works because it never forgets that action only matters if you care about the people throwing the punches. One of the first things that grabbed me was the tone. Right from the beginning, you can tell this isn't trying to be a flashy action movie where everyone walks away without a scratch. The story introduces a missing street kid, broken relationships, and a world where innocent people are constantly caught in the middle. That immediately changes how you watch everything that comes after. When the violence starts, it isn't just there to entertain you. It feels ugly, desperate, and necessary. The action itself is incredible, but what impressed me even more was how patient the movie is. It knows when to slow down. There are scenes where characters barely say anything, yet the tension keeps building because you know somebody is about to make a terrible decision. So when the explosion, gunfights, and brutal hand-to-hand fights finally happen, they actually mean something. They're not there just because the movie needs another action scene every 10 minutes. And that's something I miss in a lot of big Hollywood action movies. Too many of them confuse noise with excitement. They think if everything is exploding all the time, you'll stay entertained. The Furious understands that suspense is just as important as action. Sometimes waiting for the fight is even more exciting than the fight itself. I also loved how grounded the characters feel. Nobody comes across like an untouchable superhero. They get hurt, they make mistakes, they carry guilt. Sometimes they don't even know if they're making the right decision, and that's exactly why they're believable. You can see the emotional damage building with every scene, and by the end, it feels like these characters have actually been through something instead of simply surviving another action movie. Another thing I have to give this movie credit for is the direction. There are so many moments where the camera simply trusts the actors instead of trying to distract you with fancy editing. The movie lets scenes breathe, and that confidence makes the emotional moments land even harder. It never feels like it's begging you to feel something. It earns those moments naturally. Now, I don't think the movie is completely perfect. There are a couple of supporting characters I would have liked to spend a little more time with because they have interesting roles but don't always get enough room to develop. There are also a few story threads that move pretty quickly, and I wouldn't have minded another 5 or 10 minutes to let those moments sink in. But honestly, those are small complaints in a movie that gets so much right. Real talk, this is exactly why I keep telling people to watch more foreign films. Some of the most creative, emotional, and exciting movies being made today aren't coming from Hollywood. They're coming from filmmakers who aren't afraid to tell smaller, more personal stories while still delivering incredible action. The Furious proves you don't need a massive franchise, endless CGI, or a shared cinematic universe to leave an impact. You just need strong characters, confident filmmaking, and a story that actually respects its audience. This is the kind of movie that reminds you simple storytelling isn't the same thing as simple filmmaking. It looks confident because it knows exactly what kind of movie it wants to be, and it never loses sight of that. So yeah, for me, The Furious gets a 9.2 out of 10. Not because it's flawless, but because it nails the things that matter most. It gives you characters worth caring about, action that actually has weight behind it, and an emotional payoff that sticks with you after the credits roll. More importantly, it's another reminder that foreign cinema deserves a much bigger place in the conversation, and I genuinely hope more people discover this movie. That's my review. Let me know what you thought of The Furious, and what's the best foreign movie you've watched this year. If you like movie reviews that don't sound like a press release, make sure to like, follow, and subscribe.